Welcome to a new breed of golf live from the Morgan Franklin Transformation Center. So excited to be with you on this opening day of the Open Championship across the pond. I know it feels so good to say that, doesn't it? Excited to be able to talk to you about wind and how you can win in the wind. But you got to understand a couple of things. And I know you've been told some things. We're going to change all that. I'm going to show you the effect of wind. I've had some conversations over the last couple of weeks with some individuals that really know about wind, including, well, not necessarily including, but including some people at Titleist that really know a lot about wind and measured all of this. So this is really factual and something I know you're going to get a lot out of. Before we get to what we're going to do today, though, I got to remind you of a couple different things, and I got to tell you about a couple really important people. Those important people, Steve Gibbs, Greg Ducharme, they're the people that are going to be taking care of all the little different things here. Always a fun part of the show for me. What do we got going on? Okay, we had one thumb up, one thumb down. That was an interesting one. I thought you guys had rehearsed that.
That's called choreography.
Yes, it's called E6 is what it's called. But anyway, all right. So we're off to a fast start here as the boys actually got that covered. Normally, I'm used to seeing almost looks like the Muppets. But anyway, we're not there. So I want to tell you about a couple of things that we are doing. The Blessed Poker Chip Ball Markers. We've had a bunch of people over the last week get into this. These are blessed with lots of birdies, and they're only $6. So get involved. You can see all the colors there. The lavender is my favorite. When I want to make some green, I'm going with the green one. So I've got a couple different ones. Obviously, I know somebody. So I remind you of that also too. I want to remind you of the hats that we've got. A lot of different colors in here. You can see the tan, but we've got red, white, and blue. I'm holding the red and the blue here. And then we also have different styles of putter covers here. So we've got the mallet style right here with the Let's Do This on there. Also, too, by the way, I've signed that there. A lot of people were asking about that. Am I signing all of them? Hey, you know what? They're already signed. And also then, too, for the mallet, that's also signed right there. This is my Pittsburgh Steelers one. So if you're a Steelers fan, this is the black one. We've got a variety of different colors in these. And the mallets, we've got, I think, 4 or 5 different colors. We got the white and blue, and obviously the green. And then the Commanders, we did that for the Commanders. They were lost a little bit, but so we're trying to help them out. Anyway, now I want to talk to you about wind and how you can win in the wind. Now, one of the things that I was told when I was getting into the game and playing a lot of golf with a lot of very talented people was for every 10 miles an hour of wind that you have in your face, you have to add a club. Raise your hand if you've heard that. Yeah, I see you out there. I know. We've all had it. And so what happens? Well, you stand here and you hit your shot and it comes up 10 yards short of the green and you go, wow, I thought I hit that really, really well. Well, you did. You just didn't. And I don't mean you didn't hit it well. I mean, you didn't figure out the difference that you need to account for when that wind is up there, because it's not one club. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This is my 6-iron. My 6-iron goes about 175, maybe 180 yards, depending upon adrenaline and things like that. But what I'm going to show you here are a couple of little different things that I think will get you aware of what I'm talking about. So 6-iron here. Now, this 6-iron here, I hit that a little off the toe. I'm going to hit a couple of these for you, but you're going to start to see some different things. That's a little off the toe. So my ball speed, come on up here. So ball speed here is at 114. My ball speed when I hit this 6-iron will normally be about 117 to 118. It's actually gone up a little bit. Distance on that one was very low, 167. That's normally 175, maybe 178 is what I'll get out of that. But you're going to see some consistent numbers here. So let me hit a couple more of these 6-irons so that you can understand exactly how this works. And by the way, as I say this, I've been testing this for a couple of weeks now, so I know about this stuff, and I have many times stood on televisions in a lot of different homes and told you got to do something. And frankly, I was wrong about this. I was right about, but I was wrong about. So here we go. Here's another 6-iron. This was really solid. This is a little bit to the right of the target, but a very, very solid strike. And that should be out around 170. Let's see what the ball speed is on that, 116. So 170, 90-foot apex, 18-degree launch, 45-degree descent angle. That's going to be an important thing. I'm going to hit one more here, and then I'm going to make some notes. Okay, so here we go. One more. This is very, very solid. This one might go in the basket if it moves just a fraction to the right-hand side. It didn't, but this is time to write some stuff down. So let's write some stuff down here. So what I have is I've got a ball speed there of about 118, call it 118. The carry distance was 175. So I'm going to go 175. This is my 6-iron, so I'm going to put a 6i up here. 175. Ball speed on this one was 118, we'll call it. The launch angle there is about 20. Normally, it's a little bit lower. The spin on that is 5,400. And I'm going to show you something that's going to really catch you off guard here. The apex on that's about 107, but I'm typically playing, I typically play at about 90 to 100. The reason why that thing is at 107 is because I chucked it a little bit, and so I got a vertical launch of 21. I'm writing down 20 because that's about more or less where I'm going to play from, and you're going to see some things different. So I'm going to write a 100-foot apex on this. And then the descent angle, this is important. That descent angle, because the apex was a little bit higher, the descent angle was 48. So it's typically going to be about 45 for me, but I'll put 46, okay, just to kind of compromise. Now, that's my 6-iron. Now I want you to see what happens when we cut the wind on. So I'm going to ask Mr. Ducharme to cut the wind on. Now, when this wind gets cut on, this is 10 miles an hour right in my face. It's not moving across. It's just dead in the face. So, Gibbsy, I don't know if you can pull the sim full there so that everybody can see how the trees are moving around. Now, what's really interesting to me is 10 miles an hour, and this is something that you, believe it or not, I don't say you're going to practice it, but you want to feel it. So when you get a chance to see, oh, you know what, the wind is going to be blowing 10 miles an hour, I want you to go out there and I want you to feel what 10 miles an hour feels like. Now, in a simulator and out on the golf course, there's a little bit of a different change because buildings and heights of trees and things like that can affect some of this. But as a rule, here's what 10 miles an hour is going to do for you. So I'm going to hit this same thing. And I want you to pay attention to what our ball speed is going to be. I'm going to try to get this thing right around 118. Okay. See if we can't get this to. Okay. So that was a very, very solid strike. In fact, on this one, I don't even know that I need to hit it again. Okay. And I'm going to write some numbers down here. So there you go. This was a solid strike. Check this out. So I was trying to get 118 miles an hour and I got 120. So I got 120. I got 2 more miles an hour of ball speed. And yet that ball went 157.6, which is basically 20 yards. If you call it 158 and I'm normally 175 to 180, that's 20 yards right there. But let me write this stuff down. So the carry distance on that is 158. This is another 6-iron. My ball speed on that one is 120. The launch angle on that one is 17.5. So I actually got that to be a little bit lower. The apex on this was 105. So that wind chucked it up into the air a little bit more. I want you to pay attention to the descent angle here, because the descent angle, why don't you pull that full, Gibbsy, so they can see the descent angle at the very bottom on the left-hand side. You can see that descent angle is at 56.7. So we'll just call it 57. That is 11 degrees more downward, which is why that ball rolled out less than a yard. It carried to 157.6. It rolled out to 158.3. So it rolled out less than a yard. And then the spin rate on this, and this is pretty cool, that spin rate is at 5,500. Now, one of the things that happens to you is, I'm going to put 6i with W. One of the things that happens is that you think that the wind makes the ball spin more. The wind doesn't make the ball spin more. I'm going to say that again. The wind doesn't make the ball spin more. The reason why the ball doesn't roll out as far is because the wind buffers the ball. It throws it up into the air. And so when the ball is coming down, it's coming down more like this instead of coming down more like this. Okay? Now, I'm going to go to a 5-iron. And I'm into the wind here. Okay? Now, this is what you've been told. You said, hey, you know what? When you got 10 miles an hour wind in your face, I want you to go and get one more club. So that's what you do. So here's my one more club. I'm not going to flight this down. I'm just going to hit a normal shot, okay? My ball speed on this should get up to about 123, 124, something like that, okay? Here we go. Hit this a little out on the toe, and the club face was a little bit open, so the ball speed is going to come down quite a bit. But let's look at what happened. Let's look at our numbers here. So what I was trying to get was 123, 124. I got 121, which is faster than what I was getting with the 6-iron, obviously. This ball flew in the air about 159 yards. Watch what also happened. So I've got a 5-iron. 5-iron should be flatter. 5-iron should have a descent angle that's smaller. This descent angle is at 58. That apex is at 112. Let's go back over here and do this again. Now, I know I cut that one, so the spin rate on that one was up around 5,400, but that's because it was a cut. So let's try this again, see if we can get a little less operator error here. This was a very, very solid strike. This is not going to have a lot of side spin at all. And let's come up here and see what we get for our numbers. So again, 119.5, so I can go at this a little bit harder, but spin rate at 5,200. Now look at what happened. Launch angle 19.4, apex 114, descent angle 58. There's some consistency that's going on here, okay? Now let's hit one more. This time I'm going to put a little bit more speed into this, okay? So here we go. 5-iron, still 5-iron. Haven't changed anything. That was fat. Don't like that one. Don't like that at all. Let's see what we got on this one. Ball speed is going to go to, 118. That's fat. Try one more here. See if we can get a good one. Okay, that was very, very solid. Now, this will be fun to watch. So this was very, very solid. Ball speed I got right there, 124. Now, 124 with my 5-iron is going to give me about 185 to 190. That's where I play my 5-iron. Same as my 7-iron or my 6-iron is 175, 180. The 5-iron is going to be 185, 190, okay? On 125 ball speed, which typically you should get about 5 miles an hour more ball speed for each club you're hitting. So my 6-iron, if it's going 118, my ball speed with my 5-iron should be about 123. That's why I was saying 123, 124. Now let's look at some of these numbers here. You got 167 out of that. So that's 20 yards off. I launched that at 17 degrees. So that's a little bit lower than my 6-iron. The descent angle, 56.4. So that's pretty steep. The apex is at 111. Spin rate is right around 5,000. So now I got to write some numbers down here. Okay. So let me do a little writing. So distance there was in the air 167. Again, this is 5-iron with wind. Ball speed on that, as I said, 124. The launch angle on that was 17.1. The spin rate on that is at about 5,000. So you can see with the less loft, the spin rate came down, but the apex went up to 111. And again, the descent angle is at 56. We'll just call it 56.4. We'll call it 56. Now, this is where things are going to get really fun for you. So I got 2 more things I got to do. And again, at any point, if you have any questions, just make sure you get them in the chat. For those of you that are joining me for the first time, that's what we try to do. We try to make sure that you all are able to reach us. And by the way, one of the things that I was negligent in telling you, and an exciting thing that we've got going on today, is we are giving away this limited edition 54-degree Vokey M grind. Now, here's the deal with this club. This club is only available typically on the PGA Tour. But what we're doing, and they sent this to me, and I reached out to my friends. I said, hey, Corey, do you mind if we give this away to our followers and the individuals that are going to be watching the show on Thursday? He said, no problem, Mike. He's actually got a great accent. No problem, Michael. Yeah, absolutely. Love to do that. So we're giving away this limited edition wedge. You cannot get this wedge without going through in a very small number, going over to Titleist.com or to Vokey.com. But today we're giving this thing away to you, and you got to do a couple things. Greg Ducharme, what do we have to do in order to be eligible to get this wedge?
First of all, you got to subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And second, you just have to ask a question in the chat. And if it's a good one, that will really help your chances.
It better be a good one, because if it's not a good one, you're not getting on here. That's the way we are. So now what I want to do is I want to get back to what I'm talking about. So now I want to show you how you can get this club to get out to that 175 number. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to make some alterations to what we're doing, but we're going to start to flight this golf ball. Okay. And what you're going to see something very, very different when we get in here, specifically with the spin and with the launch angle. So remember, my launch angle with my 6-iron was about 46 degrees. Just call it 45 degrees. You can see it over there in the low left corner where it says descent, 46 degrees. Now, here's what you're going to do when you want to flight the golf ball. First thing you're going to do is you're going to grip down on this club. So I want you to grip down. You're not going to lose distance. I'm telling you, you're not going to lose distance. You're going to grip down on the golf club. I grip down about an inch, maybe a little bit more, okay? So you grip down on the golf club, and you're going to stand a little closer to the ball. So as we get in here in this position here, I normally with my 5-iron, I'm going to be back in here. This time I'm in here about 2 inches. Okay, it's not quite, if you grip down an inch and a half, move in an inch and a half. It's not quite like that, okay? I want to feel like the heel of the club is slightly in the air. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to nudge this back in my stance by leaning a little left. And the way I nudge it back is I get a little wider stance, but I make the stance wider by moving my lead foot, not by moving my trail foot. So when you get in here, you get a normal 5-iron position. You lengthen or widen the stance by taking the lead foot and moving it towards the target. So I'm closer, I'm wider. And now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to set some weight so that I feel like my shoulder, my hip, and my ankle are all in a straight line. They might not be, but that's what I feel. I feel like that's over there. And I've created this single post from the shoulder to the ankle through the hip and knee. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate around that post. So I'm really staying lead side centric. I'm not going to get a shift here. And here you can go as hard at this as you want. You've been told, by the way, when it's breezy, swing easy. What I'm telling you is when you're flighting and it's breezy, you don't swing easy. You go at it. I want you to go at it, because everybody says, well, if you go at it, you're going to add more spin. You're going to watch right here, and you're going to see the spin rate of this golf ball here. You're taking spin out by taking loft off the face. You're taking some spin out by bringing this club down on a steeper angle. So we get in here, stand a little closer after we've gripped down, put that weight a little bit forward in the stance. So right here like this. And now when we get in here, you're going to hit this thing hard. So here we go. So now what I've done is I've hit this as hard as I can hit it. And what you're going to notice is that the swing kind of slowed down. Like, in other words, I didn't follow through aggressively. One of the things that I'm going to do when I'm hitting a knockdown shot, and you saw this last week with Rory McIlroy on Sunday of the Scottish Open. He had a 200-yard shot with a 2-iron, and boom, he shut that thing down. I want you to feel like you're keeping the head of the club under the handle, so this gets shut down right here like this. But now, come on up here. I want you to see what happened to what I created right there. What I created was a lower launch angle, 8.9 degrees. I created a little bit more spin. I mean, a little bit more ball speed. I was at 124, got 126. Why? Because there's a little loft that's taken out. So much like your driver is going to go a little bit farther because a little less loft than, say, your 5-wood or whatever, the collision becomes a little bit more solid. The speed of the ball is going to go up. Even though maybe the club head speed isn't going up, the ball speed will go up. So you can swing at this thing hard. But look at the spin rate. The spin rate went to 4,100. It came down almost 1,000 RPMs, even though I swung faster, created more ball speed. That whole thing about spin, not true. You know what is true? Descent angles and apexes. And we start looking at that, all of a sudden my apex now is at 63 degrees. I mean, 63 feet. That's not quite half, but almost. And look at my descent angle. Now it's down to 41. And so that golf ball actually flew 177 and rolled out 6 yards into the wind. That's when you take one more club. So if you're going to go one more club, no problem. You can go one more club, but you better flight it. And don't think to yourself that you're going to lose distance on the flight. You're not. I got more distance. I actually hit it farther with the flight because it's tracking down here. Let me do a little writing here. So now I've got 5-iron flight. And here's what I got. I got my distance. I'm going to call it 177. So I got 10 more yards. This is going to be 5-iron flight. So I'm going to call that an F. Okay. So I got 177. Ball speed is at 126. So just a little bit more, even though I grip down. Remember I told you before, you grip down, but you're not going to lose ball speed. I actually increased ball speed on that one. Launch angle. This is really cool. That launch angle is at 9 degrees. So because I launched that a little bit lower, now all of a sudden things got a whole lot better. Spin rate went to 4,100. And then the apex, look at that apex at 63 feet. So I brought the apex down. And when I bring the apex down, now all of a sudden this thing is tracking out a little bit more and the wind doesn't affect it quite as much. And all of a sudden I get my 175 shot. The descent angle at 41 degrees. Now, you got an option. So you don't have to flight it down. And one of the things that people feel like is they go, well, you know what, if I flight it down, now all of a sudden I might not be able to attack that front hole location. Well, you know what? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's individual and what you like to do. But I want to give you an option. And here's the option. And this is the thing that I spoke to my friend, I should say friends, because it was multiple calls at Titleist. And I said, this is what I'm seeing. Can you tell me if this is true or not? I'm losing about 18 to 20 yards off of my shots when I have a 10-mile-an-hour wind. He goes, it's exactly right. And what they have at Manchester Lane is they have a way to test the wind, and then they can go, okay, it's 10 miles an hour. They've got a little detector that's 90 feet off the ground. And so they test it and they go, yeah, that's exactly what we see. So here's what I've done. I've gone to a 4-iron right now. So now I'm 2 clubs more. Now I'm not going to flight this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit this normal. Now watch what happens when I hit this normally. Okay. So we know that ball speed's got to be up in the 126 area. So say 127. I should get somewhere in that neighborhood with this 4-iron. So this one I blocked a little bit to the right. So not a tremendous strike for me, but let's see what the numbers are that we got. So we look first at the ball speed. So my ball speed's at 124. That's an open club face, right? That's where I lost ball speed. So all of a sudden my backspin and my side spin numbers are going to go up. Now, watch what also happens. The total distance on that is 170. I launched that at 18. Normally this shouldn't launch that high. This should be launching at about 15 or 16 degrees right in there. Apex at 117. Descent angle is back to that 57 degree again. So let's hit a couple more of these and see what we end up getting. And again, one of the things that I will reiterate to you, if you're just joining us, what we're trying to do is we're trying to show you your options when you're playing into the wind. Also, too, remind you that we're giving away this 54-degree M grind from Bob Volke. He's made a beautiful club here. It's a limited edition. It's available on the PGA Tour. The M grind is available on the PGA Tour, but not available in 54 degrees. And I throw it back to my friend Greg Ducharme. What do they have to do in order for them to be able to win, potentially win this wedge, Mr. Ducharme?
To win the wedge, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button you see on your screen, and enter a question in the chat and get involved in the show.
There you go. Get involved in the show. All right, so here we go. 4-iron again. See if we can hit this a little more solidly. I hit this pretty good. This one I'm not unhappy with. This should be getting in the neighborhood of 175, and there it is. There's my target. Let's see what the ball speed is. Exact same ball speed that I got before. This is the exact same ball speed that I got before, 124.2. I can still do a little bit better, but now all of a sudden I'm at 171. So I'm getting close to that 175 number. If you stand out there, that one went out to 172, so it rolled out a yard. Now, again, I told you before about spins. This spin actually is a little bit more than my flighted 5-iron, but not as much as my 5-iron as a rule. Now, launch angle 18, apex 116, descent angle 56 again. So we've got some consistency in this. Let's see if the only thing that's inconsistent is the operator. The ball is doing what it's supposed to do. The club is doing what it's supposed to do, but I can't seem to get this thing to strike the way I want. So let's try it again. That's on the toe. So that's also going to be not a great shot. And there are some of you that really like hitting fuller shots. And so this will be a comfort thing. I like hitting flighted shots into the wind. I'm not somebody that likes to chuck it up into the air. But here we go again. Give me one more chance here, please. One more chance. Here we go. 4-iron. Okay, this is pretty solid here. This one might actually get in that basket, but it's going to be right around that 175. There it is. So a little bit less again, 122. I got to go one more, Greg. I got to go one more. I'm going to hit this one now. I'm not laying off this. This one going all the way down. That one I steamed. This one I steamed. I actually pulled it. So this will go past the 175 number. But let's come on up here and look at this. So here you go. So I steamed that one because I just got sick and tired of coming up short. That's basically what happened. So I got 128 ball speed on that one. That's what happens when you misfire a couple of different times, okay? But what I got was I got a 180 shot there. So I got it to 180. The ball had less spin, not a lot of side spin at all, pretty straight shot. Apex went to 95 feet. The launch angle came down to 13 because I went after it a little bit harder. But look at what happened to the descent angle. That descent angle went to 51. So let me write this stuff down here so we can kind of make sense of what we've achieved here, okay? So now with this 4-iron, which is right here, and again, we're in the wind. So the ball speed on this one is 128. The total distance is 180. So we're going to go 180 on this. Ball speed was at 128. Launch angle on this one is 13.3. So we'll leave it at 13. Spin rate on this one is 4,500. And then my apex on that is 95 because I launched it a little bit lower. So when I launched that one a little bit lower, 13.3, the apex isn't going to be quite the same. Had that not had any wind in it, that apex probably would have been around 65 to 75 feet. And then the descent angle on that one, which is just amazing, is 51.4. So I'm going to put the 0.4 in there because what I want you to see is this. These are the descent angles, okay? Now, when you start looking at all this stuff, I want you to understand that there's a reason why the ball doesn't release a lot into the wind, and it has nothing to do with spin. What you can see here in these spin numbers is this. The spin numbers that were the greatest were obviously with the 6-irons. When I went to 5-irons and flighted and 4-irons, they all of a sudden came down. So my 5-iron is at 5,000, and when I flight it, it goes to 4,100. And when I hit a 4-iron not flighted at all, it goes to 4,500. So I lose a little bit of spin because of the loft of the golf club, not any other reason. And because of the wind, I don't get more spin. The club takes spin off. But what does happen is this. Descent angles change. So I have the wind off. Descent angle is 46. I have the wind on. I pick up 10 or 11 degrees of descent angle, and it goes up to 57. I change the shot, but I don't flight it, and I get a descent angle that's very similar. This number right here and this number right here are pretty similar. Now I flight it. My descent angle is still at 41, which is only about 5 degrees difference between my 6-iron, but it's a flighted 5-iron. I'm launching that thing. Look at this. This launch angle right here is at 9. This launch angle right here is at 20. So it's half. But my descent angle doesn't go to 23. My descent angle goes to 41. Why? Because the wind keeps chucking the ball up into the air. And then when I go to a 4-iron, which should have a flatter descent angle, and it should have more rollout, now all of a sudden it goes to 51.4, which is 10 degrees more than the flighted 5-iron. And it's a very sort of interesting way to look at this and how you're going to play the game. Do you want to teach yourself how to flight? Do you want to teach yourself to just let it go up into the air? So let's assume that you want to flight, because now what's time to do? It's now time to teach you how to flight a golf ball. So here's what I want you to do. Gregory, if you could, I want to take the wind off, and I want to show people like here. Okay? So this is back to my 6-iron now. Now, I told you before what my 6-iron is. I'm going to launch the thing at around 17 to 19 degrees. I'm going to have a spin rate around 5,400. Like, I know all these numbers off the top of my head. Ball speed's going to be around 118, 119, something like that, right? Apex will be around 90 to 100 feet. Okay, so here we go. 6-iron standard. I got a little underneath this, so that's going to take this golf ball. It's going to chuck it up into the air a little bit more. Might even alter the launch angle a little bit. All the numbers are going to alter just a little bit, but it's going to be pretty close here. So ball speed's at 117. That's pretty close. The carry distance on that 171, again, pretty close. Not a great strike. Too much backspin, too much side spin. That's why it launches a little higher. I launched that at 21. Typically, I'm going to launch it, as I said, between 17 and 19. And my apex, that's a little bit higher than normal. Normally, I'm 90 to 100. This is 105. So the descent angle goes up to about 48. Typically, I'm around 46. Now, I want you to see what happens when I go to a flight. And then I want to teach you how to flight, okay? So here's a flighted shot. No wind again. So I'm gripping down, which you've done a million times. Stand a little closer, move it a little back, lean a little forward, pivot over that lead leg, shut that follow through down, and hit it. So this one, I did exactly that. Now, this one here is going to go a little bit farther than the shot that I just hit. A couple of things are going to change quite a bit, right? I hit that 177. Ball speed goes up to 119. Spin rate on this one is down 5,500 from the 6,000 that I had before. Apex down. It was down about 20 feet from what I just did before. And the descent angle, 43 degrees. So it's a little bit flatter. That shot's a little bit flatter. And I didn't even max this. I can max this even more if I want to by even getting a little closer and moving a little bit farther back. So I want to remind you of the things that we want to try to do and why we're trying to do this. One, the whole thing that we're trying to do, and back out of this a little bit, Gibbsy, if you would. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make the club head come more like this into the golf ball. We want to try to make the club head come down more this way. When it comes down more this way, it's going to launch the ball out a little bit lower. And by moving the ball back in my stance and by setting a little bit, standing a little closer to the ball and by leaning a little left, I'm delivering less loft. And so all of a sudden, all that adds up to a ball that's going to be flighting out a lot lower, but it's not going to add more spin. If I do this dramatically here, grip down, move it even farther back, stand even closer to it, lean even more to the left, and then hit this. Now, what you're going to see out of this one is this is steamed. It's a little bit out to the right because I took such extreme measures in everything I'm doing, but I want you to watch what happens to this shot. My ball speed now goes up to 121. Why? Because there's less loft delivered. The club head isn't traveling any faster, and I haven't marked the club. So I'm telling you, it's not traveling any faster. This is just an approximation from the About Golf Simulator. But look at what happens with my launch. My launch angle goes to 7 degrees. Well, if it goes to 77 degrees, what happens to the apex? That's right. The apex comes down. This one only carried 36 feet in the air. That's why it rolled out over 10 yards. And then look at the descent angle. It's at 26.2 degrees. Okay. Now, I'm going to take this back. We're going to add this wind again. I'm going to do exactly what I just did there. Try to launch this thing at about 7 degrees, but see how these numbers are going to change. Okay. This is why this is so fun. And one of the things, that I have talked about a lot, and one of the things, I've opened up an indoor club with About Golf simulators. We got 6 of them. It's called Rock Pile. And the reason why we've done is that I think that it's a better way to practice than practicing outdoors because of all these numbers that are available. So now we've cut the wind back on. Greg, did you cut the wind back on? No. So we're cutting the wind back on here. And when we cut the wind back on here, now what we're going to do is we'll do the exact same thing that we just did. And there you go. We're at 10 miles an hour there. Okay. So now standing a little bit closer, moving the ball a little bit farther back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did. Okay. So here we go really fast and shut that follow through down. Here we go. So this is what I just achieved with that last one. Dead into the wind. So dead into the wind. Let's see what we got with this one. So 120 miles an hour ball speed. It's exactly what I was saying that I was going to try to get. I actually got this one solidly. The launch angle is at 9.1 degrees. So very, very similar. Can't really get much closer to that. The ball went 162 yards in the air. So that's almost 10 yards off. But look at what happened to the descent angle. Remember, the descent angle was at 26 and change. This one goes up to 42. Why? Because this no longer apex is at 36 feet. It apexes at 60 feet because the wind is chucking it up into the air. So when it comes down, even though it's a similar launch, even though it's a similar ball speed, even though everything is similar, because there's wind, now all of a sudden it reaches a higher apex and it has a steeper descent angle. Now the question is, how do we do this? Gregory, if you could shut that wind off for me, that would be great. I'm going to walk people through this, and then we're going to get to some questions here, okay? Which is, again, this is what gives you a chance to get that Vokey wedge that I talked about. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you tell your friends about what we're doing, because we're going to be giving away a lot of stuff over here, and we're going to be trying to, I told you, we're looking to increase our reach here. So we're going to be getting some sponsors, and we got a great sponsorship announcement that's going to be coming here in August. And we're hoping to add more partners so that we can continue to do this, and it costs you nothing. In fact, if you keep paying attention, it might be beneficial. You might end up getting a wedge or something else. So here's what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to stand a little closer to the golf ball. So in the down the line view, I'm going to move in a couple of inches. That creates a steeper angle of attack here for this 6-iron. Normally the 6-iron is coming in, I don't know, maybe 5 degrees from the inside, depending on the shot shape that I'm trying to hit. The angle of attack is about 5 degrees, but here it's going to get closer to 10, maybe 11 degrees, because I'm really chopping down on this. Okay. Now I'm closer to it, which means I have to change, because the handle height is here. When I get closer, the handle is going to be more in the air like this. That's why I like to see that heel in the air. And so what I want to do is I want to grip down as a result of standing closer. Now, in the face on, yeah, you're going to nudge it back in your stance a little bit. But what I want you to do is I want you to take that extra step, because you're in the wind. So you're taking that extra step with your lead foot, one footprint. So normal 6-iron, move it back a little bit, and then one footprint, and all of a sudden, this golf ball is now back of your stance. So we're back and we're closer, we're gripped down. Now, set the shoulder, the knee, the hip, all over the lead foot or the lead ankle. That's what you're going to feel. So you're right there. And then I want you to imagine there's a post here, and you're just turning around this post right here. So we're going to stay here, and we're going to stay here. And then finally, what I want you to do is when you come through, I want you to feel like the head of the golf club is going to stay underneath the handle. Now, it won't, but it feels like that, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to finish way up here like this. I want to finish somewhere in this area here, which is exactly what you saw out of Rory McIlroy on the 18th at the Scottish Open last week. So in here like this, grip down, ball back, standing closer. Little wider stance with that lead foot. Lean over on that lead leg. And now I want you to hit this. I don't want swing easy when it's breezy. I want you to swing hard when it's breezy. So we're knocking this thing down, and we're going to hit this hard. Shut it down, hit it hard, and now all of a sudden, what you're going to see is, and this wind is off, what you're going to see is that golf ball again, bring it back here. So that golf ball launched at about 12 degrees. Spin rate went up to about what I normally play at with my 6-iron, about 5,200. Ball speed was at 116.4, and I caught that a little thin, which is why that number's a little bit higher. Apex down, descent angle down. That's how you're going to hit this ball low. Let me show it one more time for you, and then we're going to get to these questions, okay? So go through it again in your mind. And what I like to do, by the way, I try to think about all the things that I want to think. I actually will assign a number. But the way I like to do it is I either like to go ball to floor, or I like to go toes to head. So if I'm trying to remember what I got to do, I'll start ground and then go up. Depends. Everybody's different, but you got to have a sequence. You got to always know what number 1 is, number 2, number 3, number 4. So what I like to do is I like to start with the grip first. So I grip down first. Then I start going on the ground. So I'm going to go a little bit closer. I'm going to go a little bit back, and then I'm going to go a little wider stance with the feet. I'm going to lean a little bit over to that left side, just like that. I'm now into my swing itself, pivoting over this and hitting it hard. So that's the way I go. Always start with the grip, next to the feet, next to the golf swing. Okay, so here we go. In, lean, pivoting over this single axis over here on the lead side, and we're going to hit it hard. Shut that thing down when we come through. I caught that a little bit high on the face, but still a very good launch, a very good shot of what I wanted to try to achieve. And again, that thing launched there at about 12 degrees. So very happy with everything, just missed the strike on that one. Okay. That's how you flight it down. Now, the reason why this is all important and why I want you to know this is, one, when you're into a 10-mile-an-hour wind and you want to just make your normal swing, you got to get 2 clubs, not 1, 2 clubs. You need to make sure 2 clubs. Don't go from your 7-iron to your 6-iron. Go from your 7-iron to your 5-iron, or go from your 9-iron to your 7-iron. 2 clubs on that. 2, you got options. If you're going to go 1, you got to flight. So you need to know how to flight. If you don't want to flight, then you go full. But what you got to figure out is, can you flight? Do you like to flight? Do you like what happens when you flight? So you got to practice this. You got to determine what you're doing. And the other thing is, and this is one of the things, the reason why I like this, the whole location can determine something, but the other thing is comfort level. You might hate your 4-iron. You might, like, it's in there, but you don't like to hit it. Okay, great. Then you don't have to hit that 4-iron. If it's a 6-iron shot and you got to go to 4-iron, you can take your 5-iron and you can flight. Okay, so you can play away from something you're not comfortable with. And if you don't like flighting, then you go to your 4-iron. So you got to figure out what you're more comfortable with. You get to choose the shot that you want to hit. But remember, if you get 10 miles an hour of wind, you need 2 clubs. You get 20 miles an hour wind, 4. Very simple. Okay, let's go to some questions. Let's give a wedge away. Again, thanks to the people at Volkey Wedges, and Corey Gerard, and obviously Bob Volkey, Aaron Dill, all the guys that are behind what takes place with Volkey Wedges. And also, too, special thanks to my friends at Titleist for being involved in all the things they're involved in with what we're doing. Gregory, let's get to some questions.
Okay, this one is from Jason. From your conversations with Titleist, does wind have any effect on spin on some of the other wind conditions, like downwind or crosswind?
No, it doesn't. Because what happens with spin is the following. And this is always interesting. So, and I'll do this actually. So, Greg, what we got to do is we got to change the wind to a north wind so that we're going to go downwind. But here's what happens. What it does is, wind, if you're playing downwind, it's not that it takes off spin, it's that it flattens the descent angle. So it's going to go this way. Now, what we'll have, because the spin is actually eroding as you go into the swing anyway. I mean, into the shot anyway. Spin is being lost as it goes down range. That's what happens. The ball, believe it or not, falls to the ground at a relatively similar speed. It's about 55 to 60 miles an hour on a 90-foot apex. It's about the same. But what does change is the apex. Imagine it's just blowing this thing out. So as the wind is blowing into the shot, so when you're playing into the wind, it's sending it up into the air, and now its apex here and it's coming down like this. Well, when it's downwind, now all of a sudden it's just blowing everything away from you. And so it's taking out this descent angle and it's extending it this way. So I'm going to do the same thing. I got wind kind of chasing me here. So remember, 6-iron, this is going to be right around 117, 118 miles an hour. I didn't pick it up. My fault. I got stuff in here. So let me make sure I get that out of the way. Boy, I know we were all looking forward to that. Okay, now we're green. All right, here we go. So 6-iron again. Normal apex is about 90 feet. Normal spin rate is about 52 to 5,400. So here you go. Now, this was a thin shot. So come on up here and let's look at these numbers, because this was a thin shot. So with a thin shot, I'm going to get a little bit more spin. So I got more spin on this one, right? Downwind. Hey, you're going to lose spin? No, I hit it thin. That's why I'm at 6,100. The ball speed is only at 115. So that's less ball speed than I would normally get. The launch angle is at 15. That's what I told you before. It's lower than normal. Normal, it's 17 to 19. A little bit better strike. I'm going to get a little bit of a different shot. But watch what happens. This right here, descent angle is 31.8. My apex, because it's getting blown forward, it doesn't go up as high in the air. So even though I have more spin, this is what I was saying before, I don't lose spin when I'm going downwind. I lose The descent angle, I lose an apex, right? If into the wind, the apex is going to go up. When I'm downwind, the apex is going to come down. Now, what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to try to hit this high. Okay, so what we should get is a little bit of a higher launch angle. I'm going to try to hit this high. And let's see what happens, because this is one of the things that you all are doing with, hey, you know what, I'm downwind. I got to launch this up into the air. So I'm going to launch this 6-iron up into the air because I need to create more trajectory here. So here we go. So this one I fired up into the air. Now watch what happens. This is going to go well over my 175 bucket. Now it's going to come down. Descent angle is obviously going to be, again, we're talking about 46, 47 degrees on the descent angle. That one there is 39.4. So it got flattened out a little bit more. Now my apex was at 94 feet. I tried to hit this way up into the air. It only got 94 feet because the wind is blowing it this way. And look at what happens. I launched that at 21 degrees. So 21 degrees, blowing it this way. That's as high as I can launch a 6-iron. That ball went out 190. So I picked up that 15 yards. And what we find is that you'll lose more than you'll gain. It's not like, well, if I'm downwind, it's going to go 20. It typically doesn't do that. It's typically going to go about 15 yards, 10, 15 yards, which you'll get downwind in that 10 mile an hour into the wind. Much greater effect, because what it does is it buffers a lot more than it can help. Sometimes actually downwind, it can chuck the ball into the ground, depending upon what you do with your apex. Okay. So let's just give it one more shot. I'm not going to try to hit this one up into the air this time. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a normal swing. So hopefully get this thing to launch at about 17 to 19 degrees. Here. Same thing. Let's make a good motion. So this was a very, very good motion. This ball speed on this one is going to go up a little bit more. So before we had that ball speed up about 117.6. This one goes up another mile an hour. So 118.4. And what happened? Remember you said, well, spin rate's going to go down. Actually, no, my spin rate went to 6,400 on that. Open club face, so a little bit of a fade on that shot. But that spin did not come downwind. I've done that 3 times now. So in the baseball rules, hey, there you go. Baseball rules, right? Now, 20-degree launch. Again, another 188-yard carry for 91 total distance. Apex at 91 feet, so a little bit lower than I would normally get with that kind of launch angle. And the descent angle back to 39 degrees instead of the 46. Okay, so yes, as a rule, you're going to gain more distance downwind. No, you're not gaining more spin. You're not losing spin, rather. What you're doing is you're flattening out the descent angle. That's what's happening. And you're moving the apex downrange. You're lowering the apex with that wind downrange. So what I would tell you to do, don't worry about the spin. Worry about the apex. Okay? All right.
Okay, this one from Jason. I play in Western Pennsylvania, where we really rarely have flat lies. With the wind and having downhill lies and uphill lies, how does wind affect my aim? Do I aim even more right or left?
Okay, so now you're playing into the wind. So here's the answer. We'll not change. You could just turn the wind off. We're not going to change the lie of the floor. We could do that. But what I would say is, as a rule, and there are rules that you can make, if you're playing into the wind will exaggerate the curve of the shot. So if I've got into the wind, I've got an uphill lie, which typically is going to create a draw shot. I'm going to play more draw. Now, it's not twice. It's not quite twice, but it's more than, let's say, 1.5, in between like 1.5 and 2. Again, one of the things that factors into that is the club that you're hitting, right? If you're hitting a wedge versus hitting a 6-iron. So there's a lot that goes on in that. And what I would also say is that when you're going downwind and a downhill lie, what you got to do is you got to understand that there's a descent angle too that you got to pay attention to. So the lower the ball is staying to the ground, the flatter the descent angle. But also too, the lower the ball is staying to the ground, the less it's going to curve. So at some point, like downhill downwind is going to play totally different than uphill into the wind. Uphill into the wind, I'm playing way more curve. Downhill downwind, I'm going to play curve still, but I'm not playing as much as I might normally because the wind is blowing that thing a little bit straighter. So it's taking a ball that might curve and it's actually helping to straighten it out. So I add more curve when I'm playing into the wind and I take off curve when I'm playing downwind. And then again, depending upon the situation with uphill and downhill, that's what's telling me whether I'm aiming left or aiming right. Okay. Uphill lies, you're going to tend to hit more draw. So if you slice the ball, typically that'll straighten that shot out. And downhill lies, you're going to tend to slice that shot. So if you slice that shot typically, and then you're playing on a downhill lie, that thing is going to move a little bit more to the cut side. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
All right. From Sebastian, when dealing with serious wind, 10 miles an hour plus, is there anything special I should do in setup or approach if I'm a player who's currently fighting a hook off the tee with my woods?
Okay, so if you're currently fighting a hook off the tee, and you're playing, as I said before, now we talked about this downwind, I wouldn't necessarily play as much hook. Okay, I would play a little less hook. If I'm going into the wind, I would play more hook, right? So, and this would be with the woods as a whole. What I would say to you is that if I'm curving the ball a whole lot, what I would tend to do if I wanted to get rid of hook is I would grip down on the club. Gripping down on the club is going to create a steeper angle of attack, and that steeper angle of attack is going to help take some of that hook out. So what I would say to you is not really worrying so much about what's going to happen with the wind as much as the adjustment that I would make to solve the hook. And that would be just stand a little closer to the golf ball. You may even grip down on the club a little bit more in order to do that. That will help take out some of that curve that you've got that you don't want. So that would be one of the things that I would tell you to do. And the other thing I would tell you to do is move the ball, play the ball a little bit farther back in your stance. That will also take some hook out for you. Okay. So I would fix the hook problem, not worry so much about what goes on with the wind. But as a whole, if I'm hooking it like crazy and I'm playing a shot that's going to be into the wind, I'm going to play for some draw, but I'm also going to stand a little closer to that golf ball, which will take some of that draw out. So you won't get a massive hook. You'll get a nice move to the draw side. Okay.
Okay. This one is from William. Do you apply the same techniques, grip down, stand closer, limit, follow through, etc., when using a fairway wood on a flighted or a knockdown shot?
Yeah, 100%. So if I'm gonna take a let's say I'm taking a 5 wood here, okay? So I've got a 5 wood that I'm gonna flight down. So let's establish what a 5 wood is gonna look like here, okay? And this will be interesting, I think, because what should happen is the apex on this one should be again right around 90 feet, maybe 100. I caught that just a little bit thin. So not my best contact, but still a pretty good strike for, just popping out there. And so come on up to the front here. Great. And what you can see is my apex on that, on a little bit of a thinner shot, is 85 feet. So right around 90 feet to 100, which is exactly what I was talking about. Now, I want to be able to launch this a little bit lower. That one launched at 11.5. It normally would launch a little bit higher, but I told you I got it a little bit thin. So now, if I'm going to flight one here with this 5 wood, and I don't typically, because I have a 3-iron that I play, I don't typically flight 5 woods unless what I'm trying to do is hit from under a tree and maybe cut it out from under a tree. So yeah, I'm going to do the exact same stuff. I'm going to grip down. I'm going to stand a little closer than I normally would. I'm going to move the ball back. I'm going to create that single pivot right over here with that wider stance and that weight over on the lead side. And now I'm going to shut that down a little bit. And now what you're going to see is that this one's going to go out. Now the last one that I hit had a ball speed on a miss hit of about 136, right? So now this one here, 137. So that was 137. So pretty similar there. Again, a little bit of a miss hit there. But now look at some things that changed. So before I had 11.5 in that launch, I moved it back. I did all those things, and now it launches at 9.4. So I took 2 degrees out of that. That also took out some of that apex. That apex was at 85. This one's at 72. The descent angle is a little flatter, and all of a sudden, this ball is rolling out a little bit more. So yes, I do make the same adjustments with a fairway wood. The problem is that I'm not really trying to do that. If I need to do that, I'll hit a 3-iron. I don't need to necessarily do that with a 5 wood. It's It's a little bit of a different situation, unless I'm in the trees and I'm trying to flight this thing out. And even at that point, if I wanted to flight it out and get it to roll a little bit more, I might just do it with a 3-wood. And just as you hit your 3-wood and you hit a little bit slower, now it's going to launch a little lower. It's not going to apex as much. It's going to roll a little bit farther. So there's on the high end of the bag, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm not going to play that shot. But if you want to play that shot, just make those adjustments and you'll get a similar result. Okay.
Okay. This one is from Mike. I pull my irons when I try to flight them down. Do you have any help or any ideas why?
Yeah. So this is what happens to a lot of people when they are trying to flight a golf ball. They stop the body's rotation. So you get in here and you're trying to hit this low, and all of a sudden you want to stay here and you want this club to go, and the club will go whipping by you, and your body keeps facing the ground and facing the golf ball. And so if I do that here, make those adjustments, and I go like that, and I go, and I stay in there, all of a sudden look up at the chase of that golf ball. It's going way, way, way left, and might even have a draw or a hook to it. And one of the things that I like to do, and that's why I say to you, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you're pivoting over that lead leg, that lead shoulder. All this stuff is over here, and the pivot is over here and over here. And it's still a pivot. So there's a rotation that's happening with the body when you're coming through. I still want the body to rotate. And when the body rotates, now all of a sudden you're dragging the club through, and now it starts down the line that you intend. The face of the golf club is not flipping over. It stays relatively square as it goes through because the body is carrying it. So what's happening is you're shutting this down in an effort to hit it low. You got to take care of the low stuff at address, take care of the low stuff with this follow through being here, and take care of the low stuff by making the pivot over that lead leg. And you do those three things. So, your alterations at address, your alterations in the swing, and your alterations in the follow through. And all of a sudden, you're going to flight that ball down. But this body has to keep rotating through. If that body stops, you're hitting a pull. In fact, you're going to hit a pull. If that happens and you're on the golf course just hitting a normal shot, you stop the rotation, boom, you're going to hit a pull. Okay.
This one from Robert. Do you have a rule of thumb to adjust for crosswinds to determine the wind speed? Normally I make very little target point change for crosswind.
Yeah. So this becomes a little bit more interesting. And there's a lot more to this than I can even get into. We don't have a lot of time left in this show. So this is a little bit more, it's a little bit more complicated than I'm going to say right now, but here's the simple way to say it. When you're in crosswinds, there are a number of factors that you have to think about, including, and more importantly, the club that you're hitting. So most of you, when you get into a flatter club, a 6-iron or 5-iron or a 4-iron, if you do that, most of you are slicing those shots anyway. So if you have a crosswind that's coming from, to your chest at address, it's not going to really alter it that much. It's going to make it go a little bit straighter. If it's low, it's going to go a little less straight, or it'll still have a little bit of that turn to it. But if you hit it high, now it's up into the air a little bit more. Now the wind has more chance to move it. So the trajectory of the shot that you hit, the apex of the shot, has a lot to do with how much it's going to curve. Okay. And to that end, when you are swinging a club that has less loft, you get less backspin. Backspin helps to kind of keep a shot a little bit straighter, not necessarily crosswind. It's going to be dead straight. It's going to have less movement. Again, provided that you are hitting dead straight shots. Okay. You just got to understand that. So if I hit a pitching wedge, I'm going to have a pitching wedge that's going to have about 9,000 RPMs of spin. There's not going to be a whole lot of movement that's going on with that. And frankly, it's not carrying a great distance. Pitching wedge is going to go 120 yards as opposed to a 3-iron that's going to go 220 yards. Well, the 3-iron that's going 220 yards, it has less side spin than or less backspin than the pitching wedge. Now it has a chance to really curve. So the club that you're choosing has a lot to do with all this. That is like the simplest way for me to tell you this, because it can get really, really complicated. Okay. So there isn't there isn't an absolute. I don't necessarily look at, well, it's 10 miles an hour coming into my side, I need to aim this far away. It doesn't work like that. Here's what I would suggest. What I would suggest is that if you're not sure how much it's going to move, flight it. Because when you flight it, now all of a sudden the apex is going to be lower. And if the apex is lower, it's not in the air as long, it can't get hit as hard, and it won't curve as much. So if I'm working with a wind that's in my chest, I'm probably going to hit a little hold on shot. And again, where the hole location is, because that's another big part of this, that's going to also be involved or a determinant in where I'm going to aim my shot. What's to the left of a left hole location? Is it flat? Is it a bunker? Is it hazard? That also is an influencer. So there's a lot of things that go into that. But I would say, as a rule, when you have a side wind, just try to hit lower, flatter shots. Take a little less club and hit lower, flatter shots. Okay.
Okay, this one is from MJ from India, who's always with us every single week.
Oh, good to hear from you, MJ.
So MJ, this is a question on stack and tilt. You've been talking about putting weight on the lead leg today, which is what stack and tilt professes. Is there a reason why I shouldn't do this every time, as opposed to shifting my weight like I normally do to my right leg and then to my left?
Yeah. So here's the deal, and this is not a get on the stack and tilt bandwagon or beat up the stack and tilt guys. I'm not that guy. I think all methods can work. They've proven that all methods can work, whether it's Jimmy Ballard's method of, your body is moving around, or stack and tilt where you're kind of staying a little bit more centered, a little single post, forward single post thing. What I find is this, the stack and tilt model is very, very good with more lofted clubs. Pitching wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron, very good with those. When you start going to that with a driver or a fairway wood or a long iron, you start losing trajectory. And when you start losing trajectory, that's when things can get a little bit more challenging. You also start losing a little bit of a launch angle. So the launch comes down, the apex comes down, everything comes down. And unless you want to play flighted shots like that, that's not the way that I prefer. Because what ends up happening is you have to understand, if I take this club and I go to this stack and tilt model. Now, again, this is just my opinion. This doesn't mean this is right or wrong. This is just, you ask me my opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. When I get into a stack and tilt, and I've experimented with this model, you lean on the left-hand side, you hit this shot, a little bit of a follow through that's a brief follow through. And what you end up getting is you end up getting a ball that comes out with a little less spin and a little flatter apex and a little bit shallower angle of descent. And all of a sudden the ball rolls out more. Now that shot that I hit my target. Okay. So very good shot, but it landed at 71 and it rolled out to 76.4 before it hit the target. It probably would have rolled out even more than that. So say it would have rolled out to, 78. Let's just say there's a 20-foot release in that shot. The descent angle is 38.4. I already told you that I'm at 46. And my apex is at 69. I already told you that my apex is like 90 to 100 feet. And what happens when I have a flatter shot coming into a green is the ball tends to release a little bit more. And when it releases a little bit more, what tends to happen is you tend to hit putts past hole locations. And when you tend to hit putts past hole locations, you tend to putt on greens that are a lot faster, because most greens are going to drain from back to front. And so all of a sudden now you're putting downhill. And so what it can do is it can lead to and it's hard to connect these dots. But if you putt downhill all the time, your putting statistics are going to be poor. You're not going to have a lot of 1 putts. You're going to have a lot of 3 putts, and you're going to have a lot higher scores. So what I favor for my game, and what I favor for my students is I want to try to get the ball up into the air. Now, I want the apex to be downrange, absolutely, but I want the apex to be up into the air. And again, depending upon the club head speed, where that apex is, that's a big deal, because I don't want the apex in the middle of the shot. I want the apex downrange. When you start to get a little flatter descent angle and a little lower apex, you expand greens, which can lead to some lower scores. Now, what I will tell you is they've had wonderful success with what they're doing. And I think they do a great job. And it has, I mean, I've taught people who have too much sway to feel like a stack and tilter and to get a little bit more lead side weight and all that other stuff. So I'm a fan of all of it. It's just not my preference, is the easiest way to say it. Like, I like to eat chicken, but I love to eat pasta. So if you ask me what I want, I'm probably going pasta. I'm probably not going chicken. That doesn't mean the chicken's not good. I love it. I eat a lot of it. But you give me my choice, I'm going pasta. That's the way I would say it. I know, Greg,
I might go chicken.
I know you love chicken. I know you're not a pasta guy.
I like pasta too. It's just not my choice.
It's just not the default.
All right. This question comes from Michael, our winner of the
awesome
of the Vokey wedge.
Who is it?
This is Phil Campbell, who says, what is the best launch angle for hitting wedges into greens?
Okay. So, Phil, first of all, congratulations. Make sure that you
send an email.
You got to send an email to us at anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com. Send that email to anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com, and make sure you include your full name, the address, a telephone number, so that we can reach out to you and we'll get that wedge sent to you. Congratulations. Now, what's the ideal launch angle for a wedge? So this is a wonderful question, and I'm glad you asked this. Here's what I would tell you. There is no ideal launch angle for a wedge. It's shot related. But there is a launch angle that's too high as a rule. In other words, I don't ever want to see a wedge launch higher than 30 degrees unless I'm trying to hit a flop shot. If I'm trying to hit a little flop shot around here, then I'm popping that up into the air. That launch angle up there, go get it, Gibbsy. That launch angle right there is going to be 45 degrees. You can see it right there. So unless I'm trying to hit a flop shot, my launch angle is going to be 30 degrees or down. Now, I don't want it to be 12. That doesn't serve any purpose. But I don't want it to be 44. If I'm hitting a full shot, right? So this is my 54. I'm going to hit a 54. I hit that shot right there. Now, this launch angle, if it's good, will be under 30 degrees. 27.5. So I got what I wanted. If I am, and this is why this is a great question. If I am scooping this wedge, right? So I come in here and I start chucking the head past the handle, which is what I did there. You're going to notice, I don't even know if you're going to notice this or not, because I didn't measure the club head, but the club head would have traveled about the same speed in those two, but the ball speed is going to be about 10 miles an hour difference. But look at the launch angle. This goes up to 35.6. So if I've got it above 30 degrees, I know I'm chucking it. The other thing that happens, you might not be chucking it, but it might be still launching at 36 degrees. Why? Well, your ball position could be too far forward. That could create that. What could also happen is that your wedges are old. And we're going to do a wedge fitting thing here in the coming weeks to try to speak to you about how worn wedges affect it. And I've got my friend Corey Gerard's going to be sending me some clubs that have worn grooves in them so that you can see how the worn grooves affect the distance of the ball, the spin of the ball, the launch of the ball, and ultimately your ability to control the golf ball with your wedge. But as a rule, here's what you should be doing. Every single shot that you hit should launch under 30 degrees. So if I'm hitting just a little pitch shot, maybe let's say I'm going to try to hit about a 50-yard shot. Kind of gins that one. Not a great shot there. So I can't really count that one. Don't go chase that. So there's my 50-yard shot right there. Now, I might have added a little bit of loft in that one. So that one's going to be right around 30, 34 degrees. 31.4. There you go. So that's what I got with that one. That I would look at that and go, that's not a great shot. I want to be able to keep that thing a little bit lower. So what would I do to try to get that launch angle a little bit lower? Simple. Set a little more weight on that lead leg. Feel that post over here. If you're one of those people that's hitting that golf shot and you're launching it too high, set a little more weight on that lead leg. And all of a sudden, what you're going to find is exactly what I did right there. All of a sudden, that thing launched at 27.6. I was trying to get 50 yards. I flew at 49. It rolled out to 49.8. Spin rate was still pretty good, about 7,400. Okay. So if you want to try to bring your launch down, just get a little more weight on that lead leg. That's what I would suggest to you. And make sure that when you deliver that club that you're delivering the handle before the head there. Okay. But more importantly, congratulations on winning that wedge there. And I also want to thank all of you for being a part of it. I want to thank my two friends, Steve Gibbs and Greg Ducharme, as always, doing a great job. Well done, boys. And yeah, okay, there you go. Well done by you guys. It's always entertaining. I also want to remind you guys about our Blessed Poker Chip ball markers. If you want these, they're $6. Send an email to me at anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com. We also have the hats that we're selling, and we have the putter covers as well. So make sure you get to doing that. And also, too, what we're asking is, and we are the little train that could, believe it or not, we are trying to get to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube so we can continue to deliver to you for free golf instruction that's live that you can interact with. There's no place else where you're able to do that. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this viewership up a little bit. We're trying to get the subscription up a little bit so that we can continue to deliver you this product that I'm hoping is helping you play a little bit better golf. We urge you, please tell your friends about what we're doing. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so that we can continue to do what we're doing, and tell people, hey, Breed's got this show over there. You got to join up. You got to be a part of it. We will continue to push stuff out. And obviously, when that happens, we start to be able to give more stuff away. We get more individuals and more companies that'll be a part of our show. There's just a whole lot of benefits for you. So tell your friends about what we're doing. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and keep watching what we're doing. Keep sharing what we're doing with everybody that you know that's loving this great game of golf. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope everybody enjoys the Open Championship. We will not have a show on SiriusXM tomorrow. You'll have the privilege of listening to the second round coverage on PGA Tour Radio on SXM 92 of the Open Championship. It's going to be a fabulous one, and certainly one that we're all going to be watching. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope everybody gets a chance to play some golf and enjoy that Open Championship. In the meantime, we'll see you on Monday, and thank you all so much for joining us here on A New Breed of Golf Live.